Hello, my name is Simon Powers and welcome to this lesson for Classical Guitar Corner. I absolutely love this piece. It's a lesson number 24 from Coste's method. Now, this requires a little explanation, and this piece is hard to find if you don't know where to look. Fernando Sor wrote a wonderful guitar method, and Napoléon Coste decided to add to it. So he went and left many parts of the method as is, but added some pieces, subtracted some things as well, but added some pieces, this being one of them. I love it because it's so expressive and it has so many possibilities for expression. And that's what I want to do in this lesson, is walk you through the piece and talk about all of the opportunities there are for expression. It might be with fingering, it might be dynamics, tempo rubato, articulation, even choice of tempo at the beginning. And in fact, let's start there. So this piece is marked andante, and sometimes it's seen as andantino. It's a walking pace, or even maybe a little bit faster than a walking pace. However, I get asked all the time in lessons how fast a piece should be. Not just this piece, any piece. And some students want an exact BPM, beats per minute. My answer is often, unless it's specified by the composer, that pieces tend to work at a range of tempos. And that's okay. And they offer different characters at each tempo. So if this were faster than I played it, it's probably intended about this tempo. I think that works quite nicely. A little faster. At that tempo, it starts to feel almost a dance-like. But for me, I love the expressive sonority of this piece at a really quite slow tempo. I think there's a lot of elasticity possible there, and I think it brings out a character of melancholy, of sadness, which I really find quite beautiful. So the tempo choice is up to you as a musician to make that interpretive decision, and it will affect the whole piece. Counterintuitively, slower tempos are actually a little bit harder to tie together because things are more exposed. The tone control, the way you shape dynamics, phrasing, all of that's harder to keep together than at a faster tempo. Now this piece starts with an anacrusis, an upbeat, in a time signature of 6/8, and we have that upbeat on the 6th 8 note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. That feel, as you can hear, keeps going pom, 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 pom. In the first harmonies, we have D minor, and we go away to G minor, with that D still ringing in the bass, and back to D minor. Now, what happens with that kind of harmony at the beginning? We've got the tonic harmony, we move away from it, and then we come back. So we can make that expressive by enhancing the second chord, that G minor, with a bit more of a dynamic, maybe even adding some vibrato, and then relaxing back as we come back down to D minor. Or relax. Kind of effect you can find in many openings of pieces of music. And a good example might be back to D minor. So that was Bach's BWV 999. That had one extra chord in there, but it's the same idea. We start in D minor, we move away, and then we come back. This idea of tension, relaxation to tension to relaxation. We enhance that feeling with perhaps speeding up of the tempo slightly, and also extra dynamic. I'll refer to this later on as less energy and more energy, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. The last thing I want to point out about the beginning is the rest that is indicated in the bass. Now, it's not like there's another note being played. New strings. It's not like there's another note being played in the bass that we need to stop it. That rest really offers some punctuation in the music. It's like taking your time to talk. It frames the words differently. So, if we weren't going to play the rest in the bass. We just ring on like this. Just get that D, D, D. However, if we replace the thumb on the 4th string to stop that D sounding, 1, 2, rest, 4, 5, rest, 1, 2, rest, then we get this extra punctuation in the bass line. So, and I really love that. It says pom, pom, pom. So adding that extra bit of choreography in the fingers, which does increase the challenge, is worth it musically. So that's called bass stopping, where we replace the thumb, in this instance, back on the string to stop it sounding. What you have to do is match it up with the sounding of the note above it, above the rest, that is. As you play that note, see my thumb come back down to the string. Rest in the bass, play the top. It's quite tricky to get the hang of it, but you'll find that that bass stopping technique permeates a lot of intermediate to advanced repertoire. Okay, let's move on. Now, these beautiful lines that follow these chords, we've had arpeggios, then this halfway point, like a question asked. I love these high lines in 9th position. First of all, to get from A to that D, 1, 2, you can let your fingers stay down with a bit of pressure on the string and you get that portamento. Now, I'm not going to try and sing because I'm not a good singer, but it's very vocal. No, see, I'm not going to sing. Okay, so adding that little portamento there is very vocal-like, very expressive. Similarly, we can have slurs that are marked in the score, but these slurs require not so much a technical execution of a slur where we're aiming for really a lot of clarity. Rather, we want the first note to be louder, second note softer. Dee-dum, dee-dum. Very expressive, very vocal-like once again. Now, one more thing about that line up in 9th position is that I collapse my thumb onto the strings to stop anything sounding, and so all I have access to is that top string. It's a little bit of an unorthodox hand position, and we're going to return back to our normal hand position afterwards. But it allows for that first string to sound alone, like this. So we come back to the normal position, but just collapsing your thumb on 5 strings, all 5 strings, and letting I and M play the first string has a very sweet song-like quality. We've had a very lyrical amount of music, and so adding in articulation by bringing our right hand fingers back to the string. Pom, 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 and that last one just placed on the downbeat. Tom, tom, tom. All right, a lot of talking. Let me play that first half phrase, that halfway point. Now we have a climb back up to repeat the initial material. So this is beautiful. We have a crescendo up and then decrescendo. It's a hairpin, what they call a hairpin crescendo. Whoops, that was very happy. We also accompany this hairpin crescendo with a speed up and a slow down. So again, that idea of energy, increasing energy and fading away. Now, whenever we have repeated material, there's an opportunity to be expressive as well, because just like us in our lives, we change. Time passes and we change. So this music, perhaps just subtly, is maybe a bit more straightforward. So the first time, very expressive. maybe thinking, a little bit of a pause, a little bit halting. And then as we come back to this material, as it comes back here in measure 5, maybe just a bit more straightforward, a bit more driving. Now, this is the same again. So, what are we going to do on the second time? I like to take out some of those slurs sometimes. Just articulate it. Not a vibrato there. I collapsed my thumb again. And instead of the staccato, like before perhaps, now for those of you with very keen attention to detail, watch my thumb as I go A to D, 5 to 1. As I play that D, I'm just collapsing a little bit onto the 5th string, stopping that bass from sounding, and it cleans up the sound. If I didn't do that, it's still ringing all the way through there. So just stopping that bass from ringing cleans up the sound, gives it a bit of articulation. And then this measure here at the end of this first big phrase, it's just a D minor arpeggio, so we can just relax that energy, slowing down, getting softer. A beautiful piece of music. We have more to come. In the B section, this piece is in ternary form. A section to the B section, then back to the A section. In this B section, we have running 16th notes. And whenever you have running 16th notes, there's an opportunity to be very expressive with the tempo rubato, stolen time. So we can be elastic. That's the word I like to use with tempo rubato. Elastic with the timing. Now, no drummer in the world is going to give me the mark of approval on that one because I'm going I think of it like a roller coaster on those old rickety roller coasters. But it works in the music, very elastic sounding quality. There's a crescendo that accompanies that tempo rubato. Notice that there's 2 measures at a time. I make a small crescendo the first time and a bigger one the second time. Have a listen again. This gives the music a sense of moving forward. It gets going somewhere. It doesn't go backwards. It doesn't get to a smaller crescendo. Also, the range, that's B flat is the highest point of that first 2 measures, and then C is the highest point of the second. So it's going higher in range. So everything more energy. Then we get another one of these beautiful arabesque lines. Now, here's a good example of where fingering can make quite a big difference in the expressive quality of what you're playing. If I were to play this with the most basic fingering, or not basic so much as clean, perhaps, fingering. But what I like to do with this section is actually get a bit of portamento in there, a bit of connection between the fingers. I shift, not because I have to, but because I like the sound of the shift. It sounds lyrical. And I sometimes like to sneak in a naughty harmonic in there, which is not written, but I just love all those extra bits. Maybe the portamento up, hearing that connection of the hand. I sometimes play that as a harmonic. Sorry, Napoléon. Then hearing that connection. You know, I'm exaggerating to be clear, but in the flow. Now here, very common thing, when you have an exposed bass line, nothing else is happening on top, you really want to bring that out, and it brings the ear's attention to the bass line instead of the melody. It gives music a lot of dynamism and forward momentum. So, crescendoing, moving forward. This whole section is lovely, right? It pushes forward with this, again, the 16th notes. A couple of things to mention. First of all, in measure 15 in the original, the facsimile, so the text version, you'll find this. F, E. Now, I don't know for sure, but I think that's a typo. And the reason I think it's a typo is because every other measure around it has two notes of the same pitch. D, da, D, D. But in that version you have F, E, sort of sticking out. It sounds quite good, but I think it's a typo. And I know more than most about typos when engraving and setting music, because I've done a lot of musical editions. They're really hard to get. And in the 19th century, it was also probably very difficult to remove once you'd found it. So I think it's a typo. But that's where you have to put on your detective cap sometimes and make a judgment call. From 15, we have these 16th notes running in. From 16, you'll see A in the bass. A, all A's. This is a big 5-1 movement in the music. Dominant harmony. This is a pedal tone when you have the repeated note. And we've gone, it's like a symphony, a Haydn symphony. Putting an argument forward. No, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. A, which gives us a big upbeat harmonically to go back to. It really makes you feel a return to that harmony of D minor. So the challenge here in those measures is to really create a crescendo, an excitement that builds, but we don't. Sometimes it's easy to actually drop off the energy instead of having an arc that goes all the way through. So the real challenge is going to be making sure you have the right crescendo that doesn't peak too soon, and a tempo maybe that doesn't get too fast too soon. So just carving out a lovely progression of intensity all the way to this chord. Then we have these beautiful, again, I collapse my thumb. Take your time, vibrato. Then this note, the last A, is actually the anacrusis again to the beginning. So again. Here's the anacrusis. So that's in time. Now I mentioned this idea of a story or a protagonist that's gone from A to B, now back to A. Something has happened in this story. They're not the same, they are changed. So one way of interpreting that I like, but there are many different ways to do this, is to be even more melancholy, maybe verging on despair. So, let's say we had Yeah, it's up to your own musical taste. That, to me, a little too much. Probably a little too much backing off of tempo, but at a certain point it breaks down and you lose the inertia of the music moving forward. But that's where you get to be creative, and that's where your interpretation comes into play. And I think this is such a wonderful canvas for you as a musician to experiment with fingerings, experiment with tempo, articulations, bass stopping, tone color, all of these things are really put out for you in such a beautiful way on this score. So enjoy working on this piece. I hope you had as much fun as I did. Take care.